Hello and welcome to another edition of Sports Select Sports Talk. My name is Mitchell Clinton, and it's that time of year again. It's time to get Brian Dobie on the show to talk about football. That's one of the best things about August, in my opinion. Brian Dobie joining me, and Brian, like I said, it's that time of year. Time to get another Canada West season started.
Yeah, can't wait. We get started with meetings and testing, and more meetings, and finally on Saturday we put the pads on, begin our two-a-days, and it's what every coach and every sport waits for. So we're pretty excited to get going.
And maybe the players, they are excited, but man, two-a-days, I just can't even imagine like doing two-a-days, especially for like contact, like football, the way you guys are doing it.
Absolutely, and depending on the weather, we'll see how hot it gets. And actually, on Monday we begin three-a-days.
Oh.
So it's combined with their meetings and their post-practice film to review the practices. Those days become 12, 13-hour days for those players. So it's yeah, they're about to hit the grinder.
3 meals a day gets me sweating enough, let alone practice.
I'm with
you. It was another good recruiting year for you. Last year was the year of the running backs for your team. This year, arguably, Khalil Williams going into his final year. Potentially your starting quarterback going into his final year. You really stabilized that position. You got Ryan Marsh from the Rifles and Teo Dizar from St. Paul's, just to name a couple.
Yeah, at quarterback, and Khalil will not be playing this year. Khalil
Yes.
Khalil.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Khalil has moved on, and so it's a huge issue for us going into camp. We really like our quarterbacks. Mm-hmm. We're just not sure going in. This is the first time I can remember in my career that we really aren't having an absolute definitive lean towards somebody. Ryan Marsh, MVP in Canadian Junior Football League in the nation, certainly presents a great option to us, and one of the reasons is because of his longevity. He's got 4 years remaining, and at some point you have to get through your first year as a starter. You just do. Whether it's Ryan Marsh or the incumbents, Cam Clark or Ryan Paquette, or the new young pup Teo Dizar, they have to have their first year as a starter, and that's always an adventure. So, our offense probably will go as our quarterbacking goes to a point, but we think we've got some real good people in there to vie for that spot.
It'll be exciting. I mean, you look at Ryan Marsh's passing stats from last year. It's just crazy. So, but like you said, there's going to be that learning curve that he's going to have to go through whenever that first year as a starter comes for him. Outside of that position, you made a lot of recruits on both sides of the ball.
Yep.
One thing that kind of remained constant was your commitment to local players or Manitoba-born players.
Absolutely. It's the whole recruiting landscape has really changed. We've been known for a long time, 12, 14 years, as a national recruiter. In fact, I hear it everywhere. Us and St. Mary's, by far, the two biggest national recruiters in the nation over the past decade plus. And it's paid off. A couple of ANA appearances.
Right, yeah, exactly.
But at the end of the day, your base is your local players. There's no question. And what's happened is, everywhere across the country, programs have become so territorial. The recruiting formats have changed so much. Some of the Ontario teams, for example, have crews of 8, 10, 12 recruiting officers that are constantly throughout Southern Ontario. So it's really tough. It's really tough to bring in a national recruit now. On the other hand, you look at the scene here in Manitoba, I would say over the last 5 or 6 years that the football situation in Manitoba is the best, most improved in the country. Wow. And you look at what the Winnipeg High School League has done, for example, and the number of teams they had. It just increases competition, quality of athletes. You look at the job Greg Graceffo and his staff have done with the Winnipeg Rifles, and the number of players we recruited out of the Rifles this year is a testament to that great job that they've done. So, you know what? We've kind of come full cycle now. yeah, we're going after the best players in Manitoba, and we know we're always going to lose a couple. Every province, every team loses. Kids want to go out and spread their wings, and good for them, and move elsewhere to go to school, and that's awesome. But our goal has been to keep the best players here, and we're pretty happy about this year's recruiting class and doing that.
But I think, and keeping those local players here, I think it's something that the fans really do appreciate. It kind of gives them that connection with the team. It really is the Manitoba Bisons that they're coming to cheer for.
Absolutely, I agree. It was interesting. I look at, I'm not sure the stat, but we won the Vanier Cup. Something like 17 of our 24 starters were national recruits.
Okay.
Going into our next run towards a national championship, and that's really what this is about. We've formed a team that this is our next era. Whether we win it or not, we'll find out. That's why you play football games, and that's why you develop a program. But if we get there, it's going to be done primarily with Manitoba players, and yeah, there is an identification and there is a pride that goes with that, and an association, and I think it benefits in every way, shape, and form, and it perpetuates recruiting here at home as well. So recruiting is everything. Every team in the CIS has great coaching staffs and great offensive and defensive coordinators that really know their business and do it well, and and you get into the coaching matchups, but really it's players, no different than any other sport. If my players are better than your players, you might beat us, but you're not going to beat us a lot.
Right. My
better players will beat you more than your inferior players will beat us. So I don't care whether it's the NFL or high school football. Athletes win games.
Mm-hmm. And you talked about those better players. Where are those better players on your team this year? Where has your team improved the most?
Yeah, no question. There's been some areas that we needed to address. Receiver, we lost a whole slew of receivers from last year. That was my number one goal going into last year's recruiting season. Through the roof. Canada Football Chat, which is a major football site, a couple of days ago posted a story and ranking the Canada West teams, and literally made a comment that Manitoba has probably recruited the best receiver class in the nation.
Wow.
And we brought in some guys nationally, most local. They range from guys like Zach Riggert from Sturgeon Heights to Reese Hansen at St. Paul's, both great high school receivers, great high school careers, to players like Matt LaRiviere, Alex Vitt, Derek Dean from the Winnipeg Rifles, all of them all-stars, all Canadians in a couple situations. Andrew Smith, an all-Canadian out of the Vancouver Island Raiders, national champions. As a slot back, Danny Turek coming back home from the Okanagan Sun. Been the last couple of years at BC Lions camp. It's been a great recruiting year at receiver. That we had to address. Defensive line, I think, was another major area for us. We brought in some edge guys that we think are going to compete for an interesting position. We're hoping to move Evan Gill, who's developing into an outstanding defensive lineman. We'd like to move him inside if we can, and bringing in some top recruits on the edge will help us, will enable us to do that, hopefully. Offensive line, added some key guys, particularly from the Winnipeg Rifles, Nevin Gamblin and Alex McKay, both of them, all-stars, all Canadians in junior. So let the games begin.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
And we're looking forward to broadcasting the games as well this year. It's going to be fun to hang out at University Stadium for one more year. We'll enjoy it. We'll have another last year there.
Absolutely.
It'll be fun. A few of your veteran players last year got some exposure as well. We talked about Evan Gill. He and Anthony Coombs went off to play in the World Bowl.
Yeah.
Anthony Coombs named MVP of that, which was huge.
Sports Illustrated.
There you go. Exactly. Yeah, faces in the crowd.
Yeah.
And then guys like Teague Sherman and Adam Heinley got a real good look at CFL eCamp. Players like that will definitely be leaders for your team that you talked about as young at quarterback.
Yeah, you need, there's that old adage in watching the Olympics and watching pro sport, it's always the same thing, that your best players have to be the best they can in the big games. And that naturally exudes leadership. It becomes just a natural form of leadership. The team rallies around, there's expectations expectations of those players. And the players you've named are young players. They're still young pups. Heck, Nick Dembski out of Oak Park High School is, I'll say arguably, but I don't even think it's arguable, at age 17, the youngest, I'm sure the youngest All-Canadian in the history of CIS football. Wow. He was second-team All-Canadian as a returner. He's our number 2 tailback behind Anthony Coombs, who at age 19 was first-team All-Canadian. Keenan LaFrance to that. I know we're going to talk about that.
Yeah.
So, but having said that, Evan Gill, Teague Sherman. Teague Sherman's a player that I have so much respect for. First team All-Canadian at safety. Went to the CFL Combine this past winter. Thankfully for us, he's back. But Teague is a guy that I'd recruited out of Victoria, and when Teague came to us, really, really good athlete, but wasn't totally there. He needed to get in better shape. He needed to be somewhat more committed, and played reasonably well for us. And then a couple of years ago, it's like somebody flicked on a light switch, and he stepped over the edge and just raised himself to another level. I think he's a great leader by example in our program. He's a tremendous person, and he's turned himself into an all-Canadian safety. And he's a stud back there for us. And we need his leadership in his fifth and final year.
Yeah, he'll be fun to watch this year. I always enjoy watching him play.
Yeah.
Now, we mentioned Keenan LaFrance, Nick Dembski, and Anthony Coombs. Those were the 3 big recruits that you were big on last season. They're going into their second year, and you talked about the accomplishments that 2 of the 3 had already this year. They're the guys that I'm thinking, if I'm playing against you in Canada West, I'm thinking we got to stop the run.
I agree. I mean, Vaughn Mitchell, our offensive coordinator, he knows that. He knows that every team in the league is going to look at us as we have to stop Manitoba's run. And then, all right, let's see what Manitoba can do throwing the ball with a new starting quarterback. That's going to be the MO. That's what we're going to face defensively across the conference. And a lot is going to be on our offensive line to make that happen. But weapons-wise, we've already cited the group receivers. I think tremendous weapons there. But wow, those 3 running backs, Keenan LaFrance, when he came out of junior football with the Winnipeg Rifles, was offensive MVP in the nation. Then you had Nick Dembski, second team All-Canadian, as I said, and Anthony Coombs. They all have something unique to offer. Within the realm of their abilities at running back. For example, Nick Dembski, coming out of the backfield as a receiver. Heck, our receivers don't want to hear this. He may be our best receiver. He's a tremendous athlete. I mean, heck, he could play university hockey. He's just a great athlete. So he offers something very unique. Keenan LaFrance is the workhorse out there. He offers up that, and Anthony is just
lightning and
lightning quick. He's fast. He's really fast, but he's incredibly quick. He's sort of a Charles Roberts kind of back, and he's a kid that can score from anywhere on the field. But he just has an ability to make people miss, and he's small. He's not a big back, but the first hit never brings him down. So he's a challenge. I'm really looking forward to seeing what he does. It'll be tough for him to live up to last year. It will be. Everybody just doesn't keep having all-Canadian seasons every year. It's very difficult to do. So there'll be a real challenge on his shoulders. And
the challenge for you guys might actually be schedule as well. In the first half, you got 3 home games, and then a good chance for you guys to kind of gain some ground or build some ground playing at home in front of your own fans. But then you end the season with 3 of 4 on the road with a little bye week thrown in there. Is there a challenge kind of with that, with having most of your home games in the first half of the year? There is. It's interesting. You don't have a crystal ball, so you literally don't know how it's going to turn out. And it depends who you talk to in your way of thinking. You look at the Bombers having to start on the road like that. Right. What a tough start that was, right? And for us, it's the opposite. We're going to start at home. The advantage is, if the first half of our season is primarily at home, that is an advantage, and if we can take advantage of that and win,
it puts us in great shape. Then we go into the second half of the season, and the race is on.
Right.
But we're confident. We're amongst the leaders in the pack, and let's go duke it out on the road. You don't know what's going to happen. If we don't take advantage of it and we lose at home, that second half becomes a very, very, very difficult challenge to try to take the wins on the road. So, but you know what? I like it. I like the schedule, and we'll take that. And now we've got to make it work for us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And before we get into quick hitters, just a quick thought. Abby Khan had signed on with you guys. Now he's over in Calgary.
Yeah.
Just your thoughts on that. Did he communicate with you guys as well, his intention?
Oh, absolutely. Abby coming onto our staff, that's been about a 2-year deal. Abby and I are really good friends, and he's a great friend to our program, and has helped me with recruiting and all kinds of things. And so it was always when he was done, wanted to bring him on to staff, and he was all for it. Abby would be a great coach. The knowledge that he brings, the expertise, the experience, plus his character and personality. I mean, he's got coach written all over him, especially at the university level where there's some role modeling going on there too that you want, right? And I think Abby's a great fit. And of course, I was at Cottage. And Abby, going into this year, we had our meetings and all was good to go. And he warned me he's going to be opening up his restaurant, and said, there are going to be times I can't be at practice. I just don't know how this is going to work. No problem. And the only other thing is, depending what happens in the CFL scene, if my agent calls me, there may be opportunities. Once injuries set in the CFL. I'm just warning you, and I understood that for sure. I got the call. I was at Cottage, relaxing on the deck, and I got the call from Abby, and about a week before it was, announced, or so, a little bit in advance, and when things were kind of going down for him, and he was feeling very guilty. And as I said, this is a no-brainer. Go get him. I mean, what a great opportunity, and good for Abby. I'm looking forward to seeing him. We'll see him in Calgary in late October, and it'll be good to see him.
Excellent. And yes, obviously the Stamps do come to Winnipeg in October. I believe it's October 13th as well, so that'll be a good one for the fans as well. Moving into quick hitters, I'll just give you a quick question. You give me a quick answer. But you're Brian Dobie.
No pressure.
If you've got a little story on it, go right ahead. Your favorite part of training camp?
My favorite part of training camp is literally getting on the field at 10 o'clock in the morning on Saturday on day one, and doing the rounds as they warm up, the defensive backs, the linebackers, etc. And on a personal level, what comes to mind, Richard Urbanovich has been our program, our defensive back coach for 20-something years, and one of my best friends in the world. I love walking over to his group. He walks out towards me and goes, "Don't worry, Coach, I got it here. This is what we're going to be doing, and we're good to go." And he's one of the most positive guys I've ever worked with. That's what comes to mind.
Cool. Any game day superstitions for you?
Game day superstitions. You know what? Not really. We have a coach's breakfast, and it's always. We try to make it fun, but it's always really tense, right? And no, not so much. I as an athlete, I was really superstitious.
Okay.
You have to be businesslike, I think, as a coach. So I have gotten rid of that. I think we still have some coaches on our staff that carry that. They're still carrying stuff from their game days, but superstitions, can't afford that luxury.
And you know what? I have superstitions before I play slow pitch, so that's why I always ask.
Yeah, I hear you.
I've been in your office, and I know there's a number of plaques and pictures on the walls. Yeah. Do you have a favorite?
I do. I can't believe I'm going to say this. I'm giving you the quick answer. Of course, Vanier Cup.
Right.
And I'm torn here. I mean, there's a picture of Israel Adonijah. And of course, he played in our first Vanier Cup. But there's a picture of John Mackey, who's now our quarterback coach, who was our quarterback in the Vanier. And the picture is John. It's a great shot, scoring the winning touchdown in the Vanier Cup, and we were about in the, I can't recall, 13-yard line in a second down situation, and he took off from pressure and tried to race the linebacker to the corner. He dove, and he's extended out, completely flat, extended out, reaching out for the corner flag with the ball, and he got it.
Nice.
And to me, I have a lot of respect for John, He's our quarterback, helped win us a Vanier Cup, and to me that symbolizes the success of our program to that point. It's just very symbolic, that effort to get there. That's
Excellent.
my favorite pitcher.
Excellent. Do you have a favorite recruiting story?
Oh, there's so many. that could go on forever. There are so many. I could give you the greatest recruiting story in the world, except it's about a 20-minute story, and it's a recruit we didn't get. But you know, my mind's racing right now. There's just so many. I think for me, it was a learning. One of the things was a learning experience. I got hired, and a couple of years into it, we were getting hammered. I decided I need to go national in recruiting, you know, and went into Toronto. I had no connections, knew no one, and I remember my first meeting in Toronto was in Oakville with a young man. I don't recall his first name. His last name was Walsh. And I sat in their kitchen, and I bet you we're with mom and dad and him, and I bet we're 7 or 8 minutes into it, and I'm doing my thing, and then he kind of asked me a question, and then he says, "Coach, to be honest with you, until you called me, I didn't know Manitoba had a football team." That hit me like a ton of bricks,
Yeah.
and I thought it hit me, but not personally to him. It made me angry. I was a Bison, proud to be a Bison, and he didn't mean to be insulting. He was just saying it like it was, and I thought, that was very motivating for me. It was always motivating. It comes back to me at times, and people in the country know Manitoba's a football team now.
Now they know.
And, you know, so, and by the way, he told me in the meeting, you know, I've got a great shot to go to this school, big NCAA schools. He ended up at Michigan State. So,
Wow.
So at least my first recruiting ever, was a quality player.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of players, that's just one name you got to remember. This is the last quick hitter question before we wrap up the show. You have 88 players in camp. How do you remember all their names?
Yeah, well, recruiting is a big part of it because I do almost all the recruiting in our program. Certainly our assistant coaches will get involved at a certain point, but I'm recruiting those guys at I won't lie to you, I mean, sometimes it gets tough, especially when I'm looking around and there's a young player over there and, you know, they got their pads on. Who is that? And I have to kind of, oh yeah, it's such and such. You know, you got to get used to them. You know, certainly seeing them in a meeting, I know everybody's name, but that's where it comes into play. But I have to tell you a quick story, and that is, it's tough for our coaches. All our coaches don't know every player's names. Offensive coaches might not. Stan Pierre, our defensive coordinator. Shane Munson was our scout team quarterback coming out of Thunder Bay. And ended up being an All-Canadian for us and a great, great player. But Stan would turn to me back in the defensive secondary, and Shane was running scout team, and for at least half a season, didn't know his name, and he'd go, "Coach, that guy, the quarterback, that guy, tell him he needs to be doing this." Couldn't remember his name. Shane turned into an All-Canadian.
Oh, there you go.
There you go. Yeah, it's tough. There's a lot of players in college football.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Brian Dobie, thanks a lot for joining us on the show today.
You bet.
Good luck to your team this year.
Thanks.
And we're, like I said, looking forward to being with you guys every step of the way.
Thanks, Mitch. Appreciate your time today and your support of our program.
Of course, and we appreciate you supporting our program, Sports Select Sports Talk. We'll see you next week.